I'm Myra Beltran. I'm a dance artist. That's what I do. There are two parts of my career as a dancer and then my shift as a choreographer. So I think the work that's probably closest to me or is probably interesting is a work called Star Maiden. It's a full-length solo. And it opened the studio as a performing space. Parang it's a declaration to the world that you can produce dance even without the spectacle of the theater. And at the same time that as a choreographer, if you had no other resources, you had your own body. As a child, I always had a vivid imagination, I guess, and I didn't start any formal ballet lessons until I was 12, actually. And that's a little bit late for a dancer. But my godmother, my ninang, was a Hawaiian teacher. Her name was Carmen Garcia. She used to teach in one of the best dance studios in Manila, in Goldcrest, which also housed what was called the Hariraya Ballet Company then. She knew one of the dancers who had a ballet school in Quezon City, and that was my first ballet teacher, Vela Damian. Having my first ballet lesson, and before that, my mom said, "Your ninang is going to subsidize you," and I was so excited. And my first ballet lesson, I repeated it alone every day until the next. I would do that. Actually, I never thought that it would be my profession. I liked doing it, that was for sure. But I was kind of hesitant to declare that it would be my profession. I was sent to America at that time. There were very few opportunities at the time. This was the time of martial law, so most of my colleagues were going abroad in order to pursue it as a career. And I just knew I wanted to do it every day. And I guess my mother thought, what am I going to do with her? Remember, it's also the time martial law, and dance was probably the one thing that was real for me amongst all the artifice. Because even when you're young, you sense the hypocrisy of everything that's going around you. And at least, dance was very real. I had a real experience. I mean, real friendships. That's also part of it because it was martial law. There were curfews till 5. So if we had a performance and a party, your parents allowed you to stay till 5. So apparently it was just a blossoming of the self without the usual. I mean, it was such a materialistic society, martial law. It was about who you knew, or it wasn't real. I was so hesitant first to call myself a choreographer. That's why I was the first one to call myself dance artist, because I was so embarrassed. For me, choreographers was Alice Reyes and Tony Fabella. Those were the people who had the skill, who knew what to do. I was just exploring my own expression, and I didn't even know if that was valid. I was just trying to find spaces in which to explore, like friends with visual artists in their exhibits and outdoors, installation. Just trying to find ways to bring my experiences abroad at home. When I was abroad, I realized I had brown skin, I had a Philippine passport, all those issues, and then I realized the politics of it, and I realized the sense of history. Like, you have a rarefied view of the art when you're here, and when you go there, you enter a scene of when you're trying to find employment of a certain historicity of aesthetics, that you don't fit because you're small, you're dark, things like that. I asked myself then that nobody in the Philippines was considering that. It was always like, even when I came to Ballet Philippines, it was that art, there weren't that questions, and I was probably the only one had that in my head, bothering in my head, questions. And I had enough sense not to reject the art form. It was like, there should be another way of doing this. So it wasn't like, I'm going to be a choreographer and I'm going to do these works, and at age blah 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 I'm going to have this. So it wasn't. It was like, I just need to do this. I can't, I'm a dancer, I can't give it up yet until I explore what it really means to me in this context. Why did I have to leave the Philippines in the first place? Why will I not have support? What is dance in this country? What is dance in the traditional setting? All of those things. So no conscious aha moment forced out of necessity. My choreographic work is also in line with my own view as a feminist, and this question of space, because dance works with space, time, and energy. So if you have a small space or you don't have a proscenium stage, if you're only in a gallery, what kind of dance would you actually create from that constraint, from that space? And what kind of concept of space should you have that will fit in that space? I always think about the parameters of space and time and energy. And related to that, as a feminist, like the body. What kind of body is doing this? Because I was classically trained and I said, I think that's another way of doing it. It shouldn't be like this. As a woman, I will do it this way, express it this way. So I always have a concept of the body and the parameters of space and time. And that includes not just of the work, but how it is in your life and in the environment around you, or the history of dance. So that kind of... When I started my choreographic career, I was part of Ballet Philippines, and even then, there was Philippine Ballet Theater and Ballet Philippines, and it was always so painful for a dancer in a company to be injured. That means cannot work anymore or be a dancer or a member of a company, because there's the requirements being in the company is a lot, So going independent without declaring myself too much of a important rebel or dismissing the work that has been done thus far, which I appreciate and of which I stand on the shoulders of. I think the proposition was a bit radical, kasi yun nga, you're saying that dance can exist without the spectacle of the theater machinery, and if you have no dancers, you can still create dance because you can have your body. And later it mutated with some contemporary dancers that even if you don't have dance training, you can create a choreographic work, It's not about your skill, but it's your concept. So all of that evolved after that first thing. I also thought that I wanted to be treated as a full artist with rights. And so if I only had this much money of a grant, I would only use 4 or 5 dancers because I wanted to pay them really, really well. Really, really well. I wanted to take care of them, and the food, to feed them, and the stage manager in the same kind of food that I would eat. I wanted that equality. So that's something I really didn't experience in a sort of hierarchical setup, which is the ballet company. You are first a person before a dancer, and it would really shift the way they're dancing, because then you see the point of view. So because I always wanted to be treated that way, I was abroad and also in the company here, like you go from your flat to the theater and you just all together, then you go, and there's so much going on around you. Nobody asks your opinion on it. I remember I was in Ballet Philippines, we were doing Cinderella. And it was the 1989 coup. Makati was in siege. And we had to go back from being absent for 1 or 2 weeks to do the production. But Makati was in siege, so we were all listening to the radio. And here I am in a bonnet and we're a butterfly. And it's like, what is this? What my opinion on what's going on, or what? I mean, remember, this is post-EDSA, and even in fairness, even my own colleagues in Ballet Philippines, we would, I guess, martial law, nobody talked about these things, and post-EDSA, everybody, there's so many talk shows, everybody was talking about these things, issues, and I mean, it was a time that everybody, and even the dancers were quite politicized in that way. So I wanted, why can't this go into the work? Why do I have to talk about it and shut up and go, it was so separate.